Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the All We Do Is Talk podcast. We are here with Week 5 recap. I'm here with Moody and Isaiah. What's going on today?
Isaiah, another
What's
Victory
good,
Tuesday.
Victory Tuesday for me. The Texans won. Atlanta won, right?
Atlanta, no, they did not
No,
win.
Atlanta did not win, and we will have to talk about why they didn't.
You lost. Your coach is gone. There's guys have lost jobs. How bad things have gotten in Carolina.
Right now we're on pace to get a quarterback. That's all I need. All right.
The Saints win was so unnecessary. All right, let's get it on.
All right. Let's start with the abysmal Thursday night football game that feels like 5 years ago, but the Colts edge out the Broncos 12-9.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this. This is one of the bottom 5 worst football games in NFL history. This was 1920s-esque. Quarterbacks are terrible. Obviously, without Javonte Williams, the Broncos' run game is no good. Without Jonathan Taylor, the Colts' run game is no good. And that's what you saw. 2 old, probably past their prime quarterbacks bumbling up in new offenses with no run game and no good offensive line. And you got exactly what you expected to get. 12-9, short week. This was terrible. I'm sorry for everyone who watched it.
Yeah, I was telling everybody that I didn't believe in Indianapolis. They somehow saved their season. They still look pretty terrible. Offensive line's trash. Matt Ryan is one of the worst quarterbacks doing it right now. Probably the last season we see out of him, unless he wants to go with a Joe Flacco type of route. Hey, same draft class. And Russell Wilson is probably hurt. So the Broncos see, and they have a bunch of injuries at a bunch of places on offense. So their season is probably over. And their coach, Nathaniel Hackett, is probably – both of these coaches are probably staring end of the line for their job security. Nathaniel Hackett, one and done. Frank Wright will always have a job for him in Jacksonville, coaching up Trevor Lawrence next year when this is all done in Indy. And hopefully people can start rating these teams for their talent when their season gets even worse. So we'll hope that they join Carolina in the fire sale clubhouse. Eric, go ahead.
I mean, I don't even think this game is worthy of continuing to talk about. I turned it off so quick. It was so bad. But the offensive line, that rookie left tackle for the Colts, was getting the smoke all night.
From anybody.
It was a tough day for Raymond.
But let's keep it moving. Let's go across the pond to London, where the New York Football Giants beat the Green Bay Packers 27-22. Ring the bell, Isaiah. Ring the bell.
I mean, it was just my lock of the week, the most boldest lock of the week of all season. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed by the Giants' comeback, but I would be lying if I said Garrett Cole. I would be lying if I said that damn Garrett, you fucking me up. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointing in the first half of the Giants. Luckily, they found a way to rally and get some points for going into halftime. But, man, when they were down 17-3 with banged up Daniel Jones and banged up Saquon, it wasn't looking good. But the difference in the Giants this year is the coaching. I always believe, it looks like Andrew Thomas is going to be an all-pro caliber player. Dexter Lawrence is having an all-pro caliber season. Saquon Barkley is having an all-pro caliber season. Xavier McKinney is having an all-pro caliber season. A lot of the players who were drafted by the last regime or got better coaching, and now they all look like superstars. Aaron Rodgers, who played one of the best, worst games you'll ever see. When he was on point, he was throwing some of the best throws. When he was missing throws, it looked like they got some chemistry problems. The real question is, how does the Packers, with better weapons than the New York Giants, find a way to have a worse offensive showing? We're going to look at LaFleur. He's been carried by Aaron Rodgers probably, but crazy game. The most watched international game of all time. I'm glad you guys got to wake up and watch the New York Giants have their best win in the last 8 years easily. Any other things? Packers. They'll probably rebound, but, man, they got to get Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs going because Randall Cobb can't be getting 13 targets. And as for the Giants, hopefully they take this momentum into the, spoiler alert, Wink Martindale revenge game. But we'll say that for the preview show for next week. Go ahead, y'all.
I think the biggest story for each side, for the Giants, They finally look like they picked the right coach. I've been worried about it all offseason. This may be the I always thought they were going to go with the Buffalo guys, Dayball and Sheen, and they look like they really put together a good coaching staff here because the Giants don't have talent. They especially at the receiver position. The receivers for the Giants and Packers are some of the worst receiving cores you'll ever see. You almost feel bad for Daniel Jones. You feel like if he had Dayball this whole time, he wouldn't be on his way out for the next guy to step in. But he's at least building himself up to get a chance to be a fringe starter on someone else's team next year. Saquon obviously looks back. Andrew Thomas looks really good. And the Giants, with 2 long, dominant touchdown drives in the second half, find a way to get the win against the other story of the day, the Green Bay Packers defense. I said it on the preview show. It's why I picked the Giants. I said the Packers defense is super soft. They allow lesser talented opponents to beat them. They let teams run the ball. They play soft coverage and allow easy passes to be completed. And that's what you see here on a regular basis. Saquon gets to do whatever he wants underneath. Saquon goes down. Matt Breida and I don't even know. I can't even name the third Giants running back who was in
Gary Brightwell.
Gary Brightwell is literally anybody. Anybody was walking in there and they were getting production on the ground. Richie James catching passes in the air. Bellinger had a good end around for the touchdown. Like just really, really good coaching, taking advantage of their offensive strengths, which are very little, but they have enough of them to take advantage of it with a spread wide open attack. And that's exactly what they're doing there. And then defensively, the Packers didn't read the scouting report. The Giants are bad run defense, good pass defense. So the Packers decided to throw it 40 times and run it 20 times, even though they have one of the best running back duels in the NFL. They just got massively outcoached. And if y'all don't know, the Yankees are off to a rough start in the in ALDS. But anyway, rough start for the Packers. Rough game for the Packers. They got to bounce back. This could be a tailspin if they continue to give up games like this.
Yeah, I'll be dead by the end of this podcast. But no, I think the major thing from this game is Rodgers needs to start trusting, or the wide receivers need to gain trust from Rodgers because, like Isaiah said, there's no reason why Randall Cobb should be getting 13 targets in a game in the year of our Lord 2022. There is no way that should be happening. So they got to figure that out. I'm sure the Packers are missing Davante Adams, and Davante Adams is missing Aaron Rodgers. It's one of those things where not always greener on the other side. All right,
Never is.
Yeah, let's keep it moving. We will go down to New Orleans, where Taysom Hill ran all over the Seattle defense, 39-32.
Yeah, so Seattle gets to take the Detroit mantle for the week for most exciting offense, worst defense in the NFL, since Detroit wanted to go and do whatever they did. I picked Seattle to win, so I'm mad that New Orleans found a way to cover here at the very end because Seattle's defense, man, it's just abysmal. They're extremely soft up front in the front seven. They have nothing on the defensive line that could keep anybody from getting up to those linebackers. And you saw Jordan Brooks struggle. Taysom Hill just playing in the QB run game. They were able to make explosive plays down the field with Olave before he went out with a concussion. But you see the stats. I think 32 points. There might have been I think there was a touchdown in there on defense. I can't remember. But New Orleans did whatever they wanted on offense with Andy Dalton. They couldn't get any pass rush on a terrible New Orleans offensive line, and they blitzed relentlessly. They blitzed over and over again. Seattle's not even a team that blitzes a lot, so for them to blitz a veteran quarterback and Andy Dalton repeatedly was just poor game planning. They got too cute, and that's exactly, and their defense just gave up a bunch of points. For the Saints, I appreciate the win because I don't need y'all handing a top 5 pick to Philly. But there's still not a lot of hope with these guys. They gave up 32 points to a Seahawks offense that isn't super talented. They should be able to hold those guys to less points than that. They were giving it up on the ground. Sorry, Rashad Penny, for breaking your leg. That sucks to see. It is the Kenneth Walker era in Seattle. But New Orleans defense just did not show up in a good enough way to make you think they're bouncing back, that they can still be playoff contenders. But in a really bad NFC, maybe they can find a way to sneak into the back door, but they have to fix their defense and fix it fast.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I got from this. New Orleans, who gave away a first-round pick to Philadelphia, they're gonna pull themselves and find a way to get to 7 to 8 wins, and that's good enough. That's all we care about. New Orleans not giving up a top 10 pick to Philly, who will probably be the 1 seed, barring a collapse. And as for Seattle, Geno Smith continues the tour of trying to steal Saquon Barkley's Comeback Player of the Year award. Luckily, the Giants are winning, so hopefully the Giants have a better record than Seattle, and they play each other in a couple weeks, so that might determine that. Metcalf and Lockett are playing great, and Pete Carroll knew something. Y'all were disrespecting him. I believed in y'all Seattle to be good enough. They picked the right person to keep around. They sold Denver a lemon, and now they're still not good because Pete Carroll's defense is terrible. The Seahawks haven't been a good defensive team literally since they broke up LOB, which is makes you wonder what exactly Pete Carroll is doing in Seattle. But their offense looks good, and their defense is bad. So they're like a better version of the Detroit Lions, and that's why they beat them. So still probably going to pick in the top 10, but a chance to get a quarterback to groom under Geno Smith is a good opportunity for Pete Carroll to have a second stint here post Russell Wilson. And as for the Saints, Andy Dalton's probably going to take that job from Jameis Winston, and that's
it. Looks over for Winston. It looks over.
That's the most. I mean, for one, that's one of the most mid quarterback rooms you could have. Washed Andy Dalton and injured Jameis Winston, but I mean, Chris Olave is banged up. Michael Thomas has been banged up. Alvin Kamara has been banged up. But who would have thought Taysom Hill is a better Tim Tebow? Crazy. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Kenneth Walker can do. Obviously, I hate to see Penny break his leg, but he's gotten hurt every single year, so I knew it was going to come eventually. He averaged 11 yards per run,
which is crazy because he's a big guy. Rashard Penny is a big back. He's like Darren McFadden. He's big and always hurt. It just doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, let's keep it moving to my cold take of the week. The Bills handing out all the smoke to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 38-3.
It's that simple. Team that's probably going to win the Super Bowl beats team that's probably going to pick in the top 3. And it wasn't close at all. From the start, whenever you start a game giving up a 98-yard touchdown, you already know it's going to be a long day. Josh Allen had video game-like numbers. He played decent. Like, the Bills' offense didn't even play great. McKenzie got hurt. Stephon Diggs, it doesn't matter. The Bills ran a 7-on-7 drill versus the Pittsburgh Steelers defense without T.J. Watt. And as for the Steelers, Kenny Pickett plays decently in his first start, but it doesn't matter because his team was thoroughly outmatched. Bills keep rolling, and as for Pittsburgh, we'll see where they go with the future.
Yeah, this one was for the most part on this podcast a pretty easy call. This was always going to be baptism by fire for the Steelers and Kenny Pickett in this one. Like Isaiah said, I didn't even think Josh Allen played that well, like to his normal Josh Allen standard, and he still had 350 and 4 touchdowns. That's how bad the Pittsburgh defense is right now. What Gabe Davis was doing to those DBs, Minkah Fitzpatrick included.
Y'all man's Minkah. Tell me about y'all man's Minkah.
Hey, I left Minkah off my top 10 safety list, so he wasn't even on mine. Just to make it clear, I think he was on everybody else's, but he wasn't on mine. Gabe Davis was just that. It looked like the Chiefs playoff game. Gabe Davis. He's the ultimate boomer bust, and when he's booming, there's nothing you can do with Buffalo. For Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, he showed some promise in the debut. I think we'll finally get to see more George Pickens. Maybe Chase Claypool's on the trade block. We'll see. But they just, outside of their receiver talent, there's really nothing I like about Pittsburgh right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kenny Pickett did pretty well for his debut. Threw the ball 52 times.
They were down 21 right away, so
yeah. So might as well get him the reps. Yeah, I think it's clear that he thinks George Pickens is his number 1 receiver.
Rookie to rookie connection.
Yeah, I just think that's going to be – I know Dante Johnson is probably the number 1 in that room, but chemistry-wise, I think Pickens will take the cake from him.
Which sucks for my man Claypool. He's going to need to get out of Pittsburgh and find a way to like a Kansas City.
He's probably on the trade block. They're probably going to get him out of there.
Yeah,
But, boys, let's keep it moving. Let's go to Minnesota where Chicago came to town, where Justin Fields looked pretty good. His wide receiver just folded at the end of the game. Minnesota wins 29-22.
This is a typical Minnesota Vikings football game right here. Very typical. Of course, shoot out the 21-3 lead. They look fantastic. Justin Jefferson can't be stopped. Dalvin Cook giving you 5 yards of carry. Kirk Cousins looks good. Everything's going right until it's not. And then it flips. Kirk Cousins goes back to looking like regular Kirk Cousins. They can't get Justin Jefferson the football, and suddenly the Chicago Bears make a monster comeback. Great for David Montgomery to be back and healthy. He made a big play in the passing game, but like Eric said, Justin Fields looked good. For the first time all year, we've seen some promise with Justin Fields. He's able to go out there and make plays in the passing game, in the run game. He was the leading rusher and thrower for the team. He was fantastic. He did a really good job making plays for them, and he kept them in the game, even got them the lead.
Ain't no way. Boy, ain't no way.
Baby.
Let's get it.
I saw it like 2 minutes ago. Y'all are so behind. It's crazy. But, yeah, Chicago Bears did a great job hanging in it. They got the lead at the end. But Kirk Cousins, the Bears defense is really bad. They're starting an undrafted rookie at corner. Justin Jefferson just taking advantage of him all the way down the field. They get into position. They scored a touchdown, and they put the game away. Vikings are 4-1. I think they're a New York Giants type of 4-1. They're not that good, but they're beating the teams they have to beat. And this is where they are, leading the division. 4-1.
I don't think the Cowboys are that good, but
we're going to talk about more 4-1 teams coming later. It's a watered down league. Tom Brady was telling you.
Yeah, Moody said it right. It was a classic Vikings game. They were dominating, but because they really are relying on Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson, and their defense isn't that good, they let Chicago get the flip. It's called the vintage flip. Chicago scores before half, scores coming out of half, and all of a sudden you go from being up 3 possessions to, oh shit, they're only a possession behind, but it was only because Chicago showed some fight. And in the end, big play from Cameron Dantzler to strip a man of his dignity. Damn. That was probably one of the top 3 play of the weekend, because wow. He just boot gang, give me that. And game over.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Fields. I think he's grown. They now let him throw it 21 times. Bears really, really rein it in for me. But no, I'm just glad that Minnesota got the dub. I need them to win the division. So I'm just glad. Move on. Wasn't the prettiest, but like Moody said, they lose within 7. They win by 7 or lose by 7. There's no in between. All right, boys, let's go to another stinker that happened this fine Sunday. Houston beats the Jacksonville Jaguars 13-6.
I'm mad at myself. That's the only thing I can say about this. I'm mad at myself. I knew Jacksonville wasn't a good football team. I knew that the Houston Texans owned them. I knew that the Houston Texans should have been taken in this game, but I talked myself out of it because I had the rest of the podcast making me think Jacksonville was good, and they aren't good. And that's exactly what you saw. That Trevor Lawrence looked like old Trevor Lawrence for the second straight week. That positive momentum has gone out the window. He made 3 or 4 big time throws, but other than that, really, really struggled. Awful pick thrown in the red zone in the end zone at the end of the game, right to Derek Stingley. He had an open receiver. He's just forcing the ball into unnecessary windows. Lived to fight another down. That was really, really bad. A really, really disappointing performance from a Jacksonville team that looked on the up and up. And as for Houston, they just avoid going winless. That's all they needed to do here, was find a way to get that first W on there. Now they can focus back on getting the number 1 overall pick. Good win for them. Dameon Pierce had the most recorded forced missed tackles in PFF history. Big time performance from him. Also shows how bad Jacksonville was playing, not being able to make tackles. And he basically carried them to victory. Davis Mills continues to look like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, but they found a way to get the job done because they held Jacksonville out the end zone and they got in there one time. And that's what you saw here. Ugly AFC South football.
Yeah, it sucks because just like picking Indy over Jacksonville when we know that Indy doesn't win in Duval, the Jacksonville Jaguars are beating the Houston Texans have beaten the Jaguars like 9 straight times now. So yeah, we're gonna stop. Gotta keep riding the train until it's over. But yeah, the worst football game of the day, barely on red zone. two bottom 5 quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence reverted back to terrible Trevor Lawrence. And Doug Peterson, one of the guys I think is one of the most overrated head coaches, finds a way to get outcoached by Lovie Smith. But it really comes down to Jacksonville actually played really good. They had 400 yards of offense. But like Moody said, once Trevor Lawrence decided to throw that terrible interception in the end zone to Stingley, game over. It gave Houston life they needed to just keep fighting, and they kept fighting. And then Dameon Pierce with a beast mode-like run, and not much more to say other than both of these teams probably picking in the top 10 this year, but Houston wants to be picking in the top 3, and as for Jacksonville, it looks like they're a young team, so sometimes they're going to have high highs, and sometimes they're going to have low lows.
Yeah, I don't appreciate Lovie Smith destroying the career of Davis Mills. I don't appreciate it at all for what was a hot take. Screw you for that. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to the Meadowlands, where I stupidly changed my lock from this game. The Jets beat the Dolphins 40-17.
Yeah, the game was over on the first play. The game was over on the first play. Teddy Bridgewater suffers a concussion. The Dolphins are starting some guy named Skylar Thompson, 6th-round quarterback, and the game was over. That's exactly the type of quarterback that the New York Jets need to be able to take advantage of, and that's what they did here. Sauce Gardner gets his first interception. He was ISO'd on Jalen Waddle the whole day. He looks like a hit. He's been very good for them. He made a couple of big-time plays. I think he knocked out Teddy Bridgewater. He's a big-time player, worth the pick. Jets defense looks fantastic. Looked really good in this one against a really bad quarterback. And offensively, I still don't think Zach Wilson's really good, but they scored 40 points here. They've got day two running backs, and those running backs went out there and stole the show. Breece Hall, Michael Carter, both put up big explosive stat lines, and then they just find a way to make enough plays to the receivers, whether it be Moore or Corey Davis or Garrett Wilson. Just make a couple of throws here and there while the running game does it. The offensive line held up really well, despite Elijah Vera Tucker starting his first time ever at right tackle. He held up really well against a Dolphins pass rush that had been really good. I just think the air's been sucked out of this Dolphins team since the Tua thing went down, and you can just see it. The momentum has just been going the other way. They've tried to maintain and play good football, but when you're cycling through quarterbacks like this, I think it hurts the locker room morale, and it's bringing down the Miami Dolphins. And for the Jets, 3-2, they're playing really good football in New York right now. Congratulations to them. They probably don't need to be winning this many games, but it takes a lot to get out of that losing mentality, that loser culture, and I think Robert Saleh is trying to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Jets, so love to see Teddy Bridgewater leave the game. Hope he's okay. He looked like he didn't look as bad as Tua. He'll be fine. Like Tua, he found a way to get hurt 2 different ways. So, you never want, like the Giants who have Tyrod Taylor, your backup quarterback can't be injury prone too. So gonna have to find a way to fix that for Bridgewater and Tyrod. But I picked the Jets, and they did the job. They got to play a guy that I've never heard of in my life. So they did what you do to a guy that you never heard of. Sauce Gardner baited him into another bad interception. And I don't know about Moody. I thought Zach Wilson, luckily for him, he's played the least. He's been the most consistent of all the quarterbacks in his class. But that's not saying much because every single quarterback in that class has had some low lows. So that might have been we might look back and think that's a very terrible quarterback class for guys that we thought were really highly of coming out. Jets got a good in the running game from both their running backs, Michael Carter and Breece Hall. I know him because I played him in fantasy this week. I went 0-5 across 5 leagues, even though I have Gabe Davis and Travis Kelce in multiple of them. That's saying something. But yeah, Jets get a win they needed, and I don't know about Moody. They need to win. The Jets need to win games. They've been like the Giants. They've been tanking for 10 years. If you're going to tank for 10 years and still be bad, then you might as well stop tanking and start winning. Zach Wilson needs to get people on his bandwagon. Robert Saleh need to get people on the bandwagon. Because in New York, if you lose, they'll trash you. And they can ruin your confidence single-handedly. So New York has 2 winning football teams in their city. And as for the Dolphins, picked them to go to the playoffs. I believe I did. I picked them to at least have a winning record and barely miss out. I picked all those teams in the AFC West. So actually, I didn't pick them, but I expected them to have a winning record. Don't know if they'll have a winning record because of a Tua Tagovailoa injury throwing a hampering in their season. Hopefully they can get Tua or Teddy Bridgewater back soon because they're going to need him because Jalen Waddle ain't doing nothing, and it's messing up my fantasy team. So get it together, Miami, but we can move along. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, just a resurgence game for Raheem Mostert, 113 yards. Great to see him back. He used to be a fantasy god for me when he was healthy for the 49ers. But also a great day for Breece Hall. He had 2 catches for 100 yards, something like that, and ran the ball efficiently, had over 5.5 yards per carry. All right, boys, let's keep it moving to the most controversial game of the weekend. Atlanta coming to Tampa Bay. They lose 21-15.
This is just I thought Tampa Bay would have put their foot on the throat a lot harder than this. They were up big right away. Looked like the game was well in hand. They're not even coming on the red zone anymore. And then 10 minutes later, it's a 6-point game, and Atlanta's trying to get the ball back. But we all know what happened. Before the famous roughing the passer, there was an obvious DPI on Atlanta that went uncalled. So these things usually even out. But we know Grady Jarrett got called for one of the worst roughing the passer calls in NFL history. You really, really hate to see it. Atlanta was down 6. Their defense had been turned up in the second half. They were getting the ball back with a chance to go win the game, and they got robbed out of it. Because Tom Brady's Tom Brady. He invented the roughing the passer rule. That's the Tom Brady rule. So you have to know who you're hitting. You got to just hold them up like everybody else does. Tough way for Atlanta to go. This is what they usually do against the Bucs. They get down big early. They fight back in it late. Then the Bucs put them away. Another typical Falcons Bucs game to me.
Yeah, I mean, I picked Atlanta to cover, so they did enough for me. Their coaching looked good enough. Tampa Bay luckily chose to not go the way of the Bills and just run it up on them. They said, and because I don't think what's been missed is that this Tampa Bay offense is so out of whack. Now they're supremely pass heavy after being supremely run heavy. So who knows what they're doing there? The offensive line's banged up, so that's probably going to be their Achilles heel. But the defense has returned to form, which all that matters because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. Defense keep carrying Tom Brady to all these wins, so people can keep calling Tom Brady the winner he is. And as for Atlanta, yeah, they got hosed out of a call, but really they really should have got put away because they got a call. So it evened itself out. Pass interference. Apparently you're not going to be able to hit the quarterback by the end of this season, even though it's football. But I digress. Good team beats bad team, and it's that simple. Big game for playoff Lenny, but other than that, Tampa Bay keeps cruising. They're on cruise control all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just don't understand what they expect defensive players to do when getting after the quarterback. Might as well make the quarterbacks wear flags. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, he didn't even go for the head, nothing. And the exact same tackle was made on Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football, and they didn't call it there. So, like, the inconsistency of it really leaves defensive players lost to how they can hit these guys going at full speed. So, but at the end, Tampa Bay is the better team. So let's keep it moving. All right, boys, let's go to the game that I switched my lock to. Detroit at New England. New England wins 29-0.
I'm starting here because this is the game that I'm pissed about because somehow I let everybody on this podcast convince me that Jared Goff was going to do something against Bill Belichick. And to this day, Jared Goff is still waiting to score a touchdown against a Bill Belichick-led defense. And it's that simple. Bill Belichick has a Jared Goff game plan. He blew it out. And Dan Campbell, I love the way he's been coaching up the Lions. I love their scheming, but he's Brandon Staley, but his team sucks, so nobody cares about him. He's going for – and you don't do that against the Patriots. You don't give the Patriots extra momentum. And Jared Goff, what are you doing putting the ball on the ground on 4th and 9 anyway? Just a classic New England Patriots beatdown, shutout, nothing for Dan Campbell. His seat's going to start getting hotter. Luckily, he's in Detroit, so nobody cares. And as for Bill Belichick, he's going to find a way to get this Patriots team relevant all the way through the season. I don't think they're that good. But the real question is there any difference between Tom Brady, Bailey Zappi, and Mac Jones? Is there any difference? Patriots play the same way they've been playing for 25 plus years, 20 plus years now, going on 25. Whatever. Patriots win.
Yeah, I'm also upset about this one because I've been against the cover gods for a year and a half now, and the one time I get behind them, they get blanked by a team starting Bailey Zappi. It's unacceptable. They couldn't run the ball. Obviously, Jared Goff can't make plays in the passing game against a better than expected secondary performance. They were getting after him in the pass rush game. Taylor Decker was getting beat. Penei Sewell was getting beat. Just all their good players played bad across the board. Monroe St. Brown, 2 catches for like 38 yards. He looked like he's still getting back from that ankle injury. Just a wholehearted, poor, disappointing performance from the Detroit offense that had been the best in the league through 4 games. Obviously, a shutout, that's really, really bad. And then defensively, obviously, they're still awful. They're still the worst defense in the league without the offense coming to back them up. So Bailey Zappi was sitting in the pocket all day, making throws. Jacoby Myers, 7 for over 100 yards and a touchdown. For Jacoby Myers, it simply can't happen. That's just an abysmal performance. Aiden Hutchinson was playing. Their defensive line was healthy. They couldn't get pass rush. They couldn't cover these guys. Just that looked like last year's Detroit Lions. That looked like the old Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions we've come to know as one of the worst franchises in the NFL. And for New England, they just took advantage of it. Bill Belichick knows how to scheme up against Jared Goff. He knew exactly what to take away, completely shut down their offense, and then Matt Patricia's offense continues to make positive steps. Bailey Zappi has continued to look comfortable against a couple of soft defenses, and they've been able to find some offensive answers. Damian Harris is now hurt now, so it's a Ramondre Stevenson show, but I think he's the more talented back anyway, so we'll see how that goes. And maybe they get Mac Jones back next week. But, yeah, that's a typical Bill Belichick victory.
Yeah, y'all already harped on it enough. I don't need to go into it. Let's go to another game. Let's go to our nation's capital where the Tennessee Titans beat the Commanders 21-17.
Washington, y'all not holding up the NFC Beast brand name. We're trying to get T-shirts made, but we got a 1-4 football team in Washington underperforming as usual. It's another Carson Wentz production. There are times in the game where he looks at top 10, and there are times where he's bottom 10. And that can fluctuate between games, between series, between quarter. It doesn't matter. It can happen at any time. That's what you saw here. Obviously, they have to get Brian Robinson more involved. I think Antonio Gibson needs to be out of that lineup. Jahan Dotson injury hurt them on the offensive end. They can't pass protect at all in any way, shape, or form. And if Tennessee can take advantage of a bad OL, they're going to kill you. And Washington, who I think is a more talented football team, bungles another one. Tennessee's offense is just getting by with Derrick Henry and play action. They're really not I don't think Tennessee's a good football team, but they have better coaching. They have a more dominant trench unit because Washington's just plays below themselves as often as possible. And Tennessee took advantage of a struggling opponent, an opponent that's losing its way, an opponent with a coach who's probably next up on the chopping block. Just decent team beats really bad team.
Yeah, we're going to stop the blame Carson Wentz narrative here. That man has saved Terry McLaurin's career. He found the way to make Curtis Samuels reliable. He found the way to make Dyami Brown, who's been MIA since he joined the league, reliable. But he's doing it behind the worst offensive line in the league and with the worst defense that's got 5 first-round players in their front 7. I'm going to repeat this again. The Washington football team, Commanders, whatever the hell you want to call them, have 5 first-round players in their front 7. Now, Chase Young is hurt, but that still is not enough. They don't stop the run, which they do it decently, but they still mediocre at it, and they definitely don't stop the pass. And Ron Rivera is once the head coach starts blaming the quarterback or any other players, he's basically just saying, "Please don't fire me. It's not my fault," but it is. Ron Rivera has been skating by on the backs of Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, and Josh Norman having all-time peak seasons one year and a weak schedule. Yeah, he's next to go. And they're holding back the NFC East from being the true NFC beast. But, hey, I ain't mad at it because the Giants choose to be good. And this year the Cowboys decide to survive with a backup quarterback, and the Eagles inflate their team. But, yeah, and as for Tennessee, they have Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Mike Vrabel, and that's it.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is that goal line at the end, how do you let Carson Wentz throw it 3 times? It's unbelievable.
Unacceptable coaching.
Oh,
Unacceptable.
great play made by Dave Malone though, because wow, yeah, I saw something that Carson Wentz and Trevor Lawrence are some of the worst clutch time quarterbacks, and yeah, usually red zone interceptions usually equal that.
All right, boys, let's move on to Cleveland, where the Chargers came to town. We had some people choking in this game. 30-28 Chargers.
Yeah, this is another pick that I originally had LA, talked myself into Cleveland. Wish I stuck with LA, even though Cleveland should have won the football game. And that's confusing as that was as what
But
this.
no, you're right.
Hey, Cleveland covered.
Cleveland covered. It was 2.5.
2.5.
They got the 2.5. Oh, okay. I thought it was 2. All right. Well, either way, great job for Cleveland for covering. So I'll take my pick there. But Cleveland should have won the football game. But they're clearly being held back by a quarterback who ain't as good as their actual quarterback. And that's been the biggest problem, especially in crunch time of these games. Just mistakes from Jacoby Brissett, red zone turnovers, end zone turnovers. They can't happen, especially down the stretch of games. And that prevented them from stealing a win that they probably should have had here. The run game worked as we obviously all thought it would. Nick Chubb cementing his claim, I think, as the best running back in the NFL. He's been absolutely fantastic. I know I say it's going to argue Saquon, but I think Nick Chubb's been absolutely incredible. Kareem Hunt got more involved in this game than he has in a while. And they played really good football on the offensive end. They just had a few too many mistakes down in the red area. But the bigger problem with Cleveland is that for as talented as their defense is supposed to be, it's really, really bad. Myles Garrett is back. Jadeveon Clowney is back. They still can't stop the run. They didn't dominate the Chargers offensive line the way they were supposed to. It was no way that Justin Herbert should be getting out of there with 1 sack taken. It just can't happen. And Justin Herbert ain't getting the ball out to Tom Brady fast. You have to be able to register more pressures and more pass rush than they did. They didn't slow down the run. Austin Eckler, 16 for 173. It just can't happen. They played a really, really poor game on defense, and it failed their offense that is already limited. For the Chargers, Brandon Staley, you have a superhuman at quarterback, because without that, you probably would have been out of here a long time ago with these decisions. I know it's nice to have Justin Herbert, but you don't have to make dumb decisions every time with Justin Herbert. We know you aren't stopping them so far, but it's still Jacoby Brissett. Punt the football. Why put Cleveland in a position where they can just beat you? Now, luckily for them, Cleveland chose not to beat them, but they gave them every chance to. Justin Herbert obviously played an excellent football game, still without Keenan Allen. He's getting Mike Williams involved. He's getting the other guys involved. And Austin Eckler had a big-time game. They have the better quarterback, and they won the football game, but they shouldn't feel good about it, in my opinion. They shouldn't have won here, and they have to really figure out the decision-making of their head coach.
Yeah, Cleveland, Jacoby Brissett is single-handedly cost them games. He never turns the ball over until it's a game-winning touchdown, game-winning drive, and then he becomes Nathan Peterman. They're in the field goal range. No veteran quarterback should ever make that throw. It's as bad as the football we saw on Thursday night from Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan, where it's just like, I'm just going to throw the ball to the other defense. Other than that, Nick Chubb wakes up out of bed. He gets 100 yards easily. He's definitely a top 3 running back. Not my choice for best running back in the league, but he's top 2 and he ain't 1. That's all I got to say about that. But I would prefer to have drafted Nick Chubb in the second round than draft Saquon Barkley with the second pick. But that's a different discussion for a different podcast. As for the Chargers, Justin Herbert's going to drag them as far as he can and have to go against his own coach, who's single-handedly going to always try to keep other teams in the game because the analytics tell him that it's best to blow the game. That's what it says on Brandon Staley's analytic charts. Make stupid decision that costs you the game. Luckily for him, the only way the Chargers cannot out-Chargers themselves is if the Browns out-Brown themselves. And I feel sorry for Eric, for a kicker who made an incredible field goal to bury his season, goes out there and misses a field goal to keep the Chargers season alive. And as for the Browns, they're going to keep waiting. The Browns should be 5-0. I think the Browns realistically should be 5-0, undefeated. But because they're playing with a backup quarterback, they're 2-3, which we just sit around. We wait for he who shall not be named to return. And Eric, you go ahead.
Yeah, welcome to the chat, Austin Eckler. He finally had a game worth noting. And Jacoby Brissett, all of your interceptions are with 3 minutes or less left in the game. That's not good. That is not good. Also, David Njoku is kind of having a low-key breakout season for him. I think he's been playing really well week in and week out. Amari Cooper showed up today, got it on Sunday, got a touchdown. And Nick Chubb is the best. I'm with Moody. Nick Chubb is the best runner of the football in the NFL.
But does that make him the best running back in the football? I don't see them. I don't see Cleveland giving him direct snaps, and I don't see him catching drag routes going 50 yards.
Is it called running back?
Yes, you can do multiple things out of it. It's called skill possession.
Even with all that, Nick Chubb, no one with the ball in their hands is better than Nick Chubb.
I see Nick Chubb make 2 Green Bay defenders look like they never tackled somebody in their life. We even talk about what Saquon did to those Green Bay defenders, but I digress. They're definitely
because y'all was doing it to Green Bay defenders without him. That's the problem.
All right, boys.
We got something big to get to.
Yeah, let's go to the house fire that is the Carolina Panthers, with the 49ers almost hitting the over by themselves, 37-15.
Mercifully, it's over. As we all know, Matt Rule is out. My guy Phil Snow was unfairly scapegoated. He's out. Somehow Ben McAdoo survives, but I'm sure he'll be out before the end of next week. Mercifully, that rumor is over. Matt Rule was always going to be gone. We thought it'd be after the Saints game, but the Saints bungled that, so he got to get 2 more weeks before he got blown out by another good team. And Baker Mayfield's hurt. You can see the writing on the wall. They're going to have to start Sam Darnold, who's not even healthy. You can see the writing's on the wall here for the Carolina franchise. They went all in. They thought they're going to be able to make a push in a watered-down NFC like the New Orleans Saints. And nope, they're going to fall flat on their face. Lucky for them, they had their first-round pick, so the incentive to tank is there. There's not really hard to say from this football game. They got dominated across the board in every facet. Their offensive line had no chance against the San Francisco defensive line that was even missing guys. It didn't matter. The pass rush was relentless. They can't complete passes out there to their receivers. San Francisco has one of, if not the best, defense in the NFL, and this game went exactly as expected. Unfortunately, for the other side of the football, San Francisco offense was played really well. The Carolina defense is undersold, mostly because their offense can't do anything. You can only carry but for so long. It's mercifully over for Carolina. They're full speed ahead to a top 3 pick, and San Francisco continues to show that they're a really good football team, one of the favorites in the NFC, but they have to deal with their injury bug. Hopefully it doesn't take them out.
Yeah, it sucks because we all picked the Panthers to hit the over. Hindsight 2020, I wasn't a Baker Mayfield fan, so I don't know what I was doing thinking that, but clearly I don't know how good Baker Mayfield is. I don't know how good Sam Darnold is. I don't know how good Teddy Bridgewater is, Cam Newton, PJ Walker. I just know that none of them are good enough to carry whatever was going on in Carolina. Matt Rule gone, crazy because he was given a big 7-year contract, still owed $40 million, probably let go so he could find a job in college so they don't have to pay him $40 million to not coach. But if I'm Matt Rule, I might do the Mike McCarthy and work somewhere for free. Somehow Steve Wilkes and Ben McAdoo, 2 of the biggest flameouts in NFL history, are left to coach the Carolina Panthers where they want to be, lead the tank. And as for Carolina, I'd keep DJ Moore, keep Icky, keep the defensive players, but Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, get him on the block, and let's get Christian McCaffrey to Buffalo, Kansas City. Let's get Christian McCaffrey somewhere where we can see him in a good scheme with good quarterbacks and see what he could do. And as for Robbie Anderson, deep threat would be a good guy to help Christian Watson come along in Green Bay. But I'm definitely keeping Brian Burns if he's on board to stick around. Definitely keeping Jeremy Chin, J.C. Horn, Derek Brown. I forget they have another Yetur Gross-Matos who Moody said would have a breakout season. Who
hasn't done anything. Hasn't done anything.
So team sucks, but at least they got DJ Moore, they got Icky, they got Horn, they got Burns. They got 2 guys on each side of the trench and 2 guys on each side of the back ends to take to the future. But I don't know where Carolina goes from here, other than hopefully get a top 3 pick and get the quarterback of their choice. Go ahead, Eric.
Let's go! Get out of here!
Man, that's the second.
That was
Oh, Eric, you're
Oh,
about to be unhappy.
what?
You're about to be unhappy.
That was
He's
definitely
gonna get
gone.
chased down. Ain't no way.
He was okay. Let me get back from Carolina. A lot of my team. We're talking about my team's playing. Do you think Christian McCaffrey gets a first round pick?
No, but you can get a second or
No,
third.
you can get a second. You can get a second.
You don't
Before
think
the
the
Giants
Bills
won, I
would
was
give up
looking
their
for a
first
second
round
pick
pick at the
there.
back end of the first round for Christian McCaffrey?
Not if they're smart.
Think about it, Eric, this way. You've used him for 5 years. He's got a terrible contract. If you could get something for him, if you could get a day
That's
two
a home
pick
run.
for Christian. Yeah, they're good. If they could get a day 2 pick for Christian McCaffrey, you take that and run. Because he's not gonna, unless you believe that you're gonna plug and play a court, unless you think you're getting a Jim Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, then you maybe could think about trying to retool. But it's probably time to just detonate this. You probably should have did it after the Ron Rivera era and start over.
But yeah, I completely agree. I think your list of who you said to keep and trade, I'm absolutely in agreement with. Running backs don't last long this league. So send Christian McCaffrey, send him to a contender. He deserves that. But I completely agree. Jeremy Chin, Burns, keep. JC Horn, keep. Derek Brown, keep. Icky, keep. Everyone else, and DJ Moore, keep. Everyone else, fire sale. Go.
Now, DJ Moore's the question. You might be able to get a first round pick for DJ Moore.
Well, you think like
might
Green
be
Bay would
able
give
to-
up a first round for him?
Huh?
You know how much dead cap is on that DJ Moore contract? They can't trade him. They can't.
They can
It's like
trade him.
$40 million.
But they're not going nowhere. They're not going nowhere.
So you're gonna send your best young receiver to play for somebody else for $40 million of your cap dollars? I don't think David Tepper gonna like that.
For a first round pick in a deep draft, let's say Green Bay comes a calling, because it's so. But I don't think he fits Green Bay. The DJ Moore's a weird fit. Now, ideally, you'd like to send him to San Francisco. He fits the mold of a San Francisco 49er receiver. So, but San Francisco has no first round picks. So I don't know. But if somebody gives you a first round pick, you're sending DJ Moore out the door. I'm sorry. A first round pick and maybe a player, you could probably get DJ Moore up out of there. But other than anything less than a first round pick, wow, they're not giving a home run here. Is that what we're finding out?
Yes, that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
Man, damn. Let's keep going on. Eric's going through a lot of pain here. I'm in pain. Let's move on to games that matter.
All right. Let's go to Arizona, where Philly edges out the Cardinals 20-17.
Just a weird game from Philly. This is a game that they looked like they were well on their way to just going and dominating again, but a really conservative game plan. A lot of underneath stuff. I think Jalen Hurts had his lowest average air yards per target of the season. A lot of screens, dump offs, tight end screens, and they just ran the ball. They were just trying to get out of there. Obviously, they lost Jason Kelsey. Mailata didn't play. Dickerson left for some time. So they were dealing with offensive line injuries, and they just dumbed down the game plan. And it allowed Arizona to actually get a chance to slow them down. Arizona does relentless blitzing because they can't get pass rush otherwise. Thought they did a decent enough job against their receivers in this game. They managed to make a couple plays on defense to stay in it. But overall, I think Philly was just fighting to get out, just making sure they got out of there as quickly as possible because of the injuries they were dealing with on the offensive line. They're 5-0. Good team beats what I think is a bad team in Arizona. But Arizona fought their best. For the Cardinals, with Kyler Murray, Kyler Murray gets asked to do what Josh Allen Lamar does without the ability to do that. So
in a half the size of body.
So like he doesn't have the ability to do that, and he's being asked to do it with a lesser talented roster around him, and it for the most part it looks bad. Every now and again he'll make some dazzling play, he'll make somebody miss, he'll chuck the ball down the field, and that's their offense. When it's not that, it's incomplete passes, it's bat down, it's pressure, it's no run game. It's really, really hard to watch football in Arizona. They're about to get Nuke Hopkins back. Maybe that changed things for him. Marquise Brown's having a really good season. Maybe they can start opening things up a little bit more with the true X number one. But they're just a bad football team right now. Defensively, they have nothing at corner, nothing on the defensive line. So they struggle to beat good teams. That's what happened here. We thought this might happen. Without Hopkins being around, they would struggle early. Maybe they'll finish strong, but it'll already be too late.
Yeah, I thought Arizona would fight in this game. I was the only one to pick them to cover. And that's why, because Philadelphia, while I believe they're one of the most talented teams in the NFC, this NFC is weak. That's probably why Tom Brady keeps telling you the bad football he's seen watching these NFC teams. Philadelphia's a little bit too pass happy, and that's just not Jalen Hurts' game. Precision passing is not their game. They should just keep running the ball, running the ball, running the ball. And that's what happened. They got a couple stops because they were passing too much. Arizona still has Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown, two guys that are really explosive. So they make a couple big plays, get back into it. Philly was kind of playing with their food. And as for Philly, big matchup to find out how legit they are playing the best defense they'll play this week coming. Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury's got to be up there with the Matt Canadas, the Matt Rules, we'll talk about him later, but the coach for the Bengals, Mr. Zach Taylor, what type of offense is this? Is this simply we're gonna line up? Okay, took the lead. Or are we just gonna line up here and tell the talent to just be talented? Because it's the NFL, and that's just not gonna work. So we'll see how long Cliff Kingsbury gets to keep his job riding Kyler Murray. They're probably not going to the playoffs this year. And as for the Eagles, big matchup coming up. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I just don't think the Eagles were dominant in this game because their running game wasn't that great. I mean, Jalen Hurts was the leading rusher. I think that's when they're the most dominant, is when that run game and Jalen Hurts' legs are on, because they have the weapons on the outside. If they can have a stable play action that they can get defenses to bite on, that is when they are the most lethal. Disappointing day for A.J. Brown, I thought. Devontae Smith did well. Dallas Goedert did well. Just a boring day. Like Moody said, get up out of there, Philly. All right, boys, let's go to Moody's game. Dallas at the Rams. Final score 22-10.
This game ended on the third play when the furious pass rush was relentless. They forced the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hand on a fumble, scoop and score. That might as well have been the end of the football game, even though the Rams came back and took a brief lead. That was practically the end because it told you what was coming. Just another dominant performance from the Dallas Cowboys defense. The Cowboys offense, they completed 10 passes in this game for 102 yards. They had 10 total first downs. They were awful on third down. They only scored one touchdown the whole game, and it never looked like the game was in question. The Cowboys look like the better football team the entire time because Matthew Stafford is a statue in the pocket. He can't create out of structure. And since he can't do that, when the pass rush is getting home, it's getting home. Cooper Kupp obviously had another spectacular day, beat Trayvon Diggs on the crossing route, took it 75 yards to the house. He continues to be what I believe is the best receiver in the NFL, but he's got no help around him. They threw one pass to Allen Robinson. They got a big bomb to Tutu Atwell, and that's pretty much it. And they can't run the ball in LA. That offense looks like a complete disaster right now. And defensively, outside of Aaron Donald, they don't really have anything. So the Cowboys were able to just keep the game under control, don't turn the ball over, run the football when you need to, make the explosive play when it has to happen, and get up out of there. The Rams scored 10 points. They scored 19 points the last 2 weeks against the top two defenses in the NFL. They'll probably look better against lesser competition, but when you play a defense like this, they just don't have the offensive talent to overcome it. They probably have to add another receiver, or maybe Odell Beckham Jr. comes back to them, but they look really bad. And for the Cowboys, the Cooper Rush era will probably truck on for one more game. He's slowly regressing and getting worse and worse as the weeks go on, but the defense is getting better and better. So as long as the defense plays better, you can survive with them. Big matchup next week. I don't think Dak Prescott will play. I hate to give up the game against Philly, but Cooper Rush is undefeated so far, so we'll see how it looks on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, it's that simple. I'm mad I didn't pick the Cowboys because the matchup was matchup proof. From the start, like Moody said, the pass rush was there early, often, and consistently, and the Rams have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Luckily for them, they're not going to play the 49ers and Cowboys, who have probably the top two pass rushers in the league every week. So luckily, and they're going to Carolina this week. So nice little time for a bounce back game. I think the Rams will still get right the ship and get it going. But man, of all the players they've lost, and they lost a lot, Andrew Whitworth is by far the player that they missed the most. He kind of changed that Rams team because before he got there, they struggled on the offensive line. And when he got there, when Sean McVay got there, because the Giants passed up on him because they wanted to keep Eric Flowers, he turned him into a Super Bowl caliber team. So they have a hole at left tackle. And if you have a hole at left tackle or you're playing a replacement level player there with a quarterback who isn't mobile and can't run, that's what you're going to get. Cooper Kupp puts Trayvon Diggs on a highlight tape along with Tutu Atwell. Trayvon Diggs probably plays the worst game of the season. For people watching, he got beat. But this is probably the first time he's been beat really badly this season, other than the game earlier from the Washington football team, I believe. But no, not that game. That was last year.
The Bucs is the only game that he's gotten. When Mike Evans made the one-handed catch, that's the only other time he's really gotten beaten.
But yeah, I think like Moody, I was wrong. Moody said the Cowboys. There are 3 top 10 defenses in the NFC East, and somehow the Cowboys might have the most ferocious of them all. Interesting to see how they do next week. And I think the Rams will be okay. I think the Cowboys are I don't know how the Cowboys survived this Dak Prescott injury. And of course, the year the Giants decide to be good, every other team in the NFC East other than the Washington football team is good. So that sucks, but we could keep moving.
Yeah, I'm loving the Cowboys defense. That front 7 is lethal. DeMarcus Lawrence showed up. Great trends. Why can't I speak? Great.
This is great podcasting.
He started the game off great, set the tone early, and like Moody said, it was over from there. Wow, that was abysmal. All right, let's move on to the Sunday night football game. Cincinnati at Baltimore. Baltimore comes away with it 19-17.
No, it seemed like neither team really wanted to win the football game here. That was the vibe I was getting. Nobody wanted it. Both teams just showed up and were just trying to get home as quickly as possible. The Ravens, Rashad Bateman injury loomed large. They had no explosiveness in the passing game. It was pretty much all Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. It was real 2021 Ravens that we saw here. Still struggling to run the football the way they were running it in 2019. Offensive line, even healthier, still is struggling. And Cincinnati has a decent defense. So Baltimore's offense just rode the struggle bus all the way through. They managed to got the ball at the end, shot up to Cincinnati for scoring too fast, and they were able to get the game-winning field goal in the end. For Cincinnati, T. Higgins leaves with an injury in the second quarter almost immediately, and that spells the beginning of the end of their offense. Jamar Chase is having a hard time. He's getting a lot of attention from defenses, and people aren't just letting him go one-on-one and take off for 18 yards to catch anymore. It's been a lot more physical bracket coverage, safeties over the top. They're jamming him at the line of scrimmage. They're just beating him up and make life hard on him. He's still going to make the plays when he gets the opportunity to, but it's just a lot harder with all the attention he's getting and other guys not being able to take advantage because T. Higgins has been in and out of the lineup. They still can't run the football at all. Joe Mixon's having a really, really rough season when it comes to efficiency. The offensive line is not fixed, even though it's been better than when they played the Cowboys in week 2 and the Steelers in week 1, but it's still not very, very good. And they just blew it here. They drove down the field. They probably scored too quickly, and they left Lamar Jackson too much time. Lamar just runs them into field goal range and gets the victory. Yeah,
Bengals went on a magic carpet ride last year, but it kind of might have hurt them because everybody that I'm listening to, all the guys who review film and all the film I've seen have said it. The Bengals run one of the most simplest offenses in the league. It's literally Joe Burrow, catch snap, throw deep ball, slant, and or crossing route to or back shoulder fade to Jamar Chase and or T. Higgins. And their run game is terrible because they can't run block. I think the coaching is making the offensive line look worse, coupled with the fact that the quarterback likes to hold the ball to make the best out of plays. I'd get rid of Zach Taylor as soon as I can and try to intercept Sean Payton from the Chargers. But that Super Bowl run's going to keep Zach Taylor around longer than it probably needs to, a la Ron Rivera in Carolina. So because teams somehow can never tell when you got lucky and got through and you went on a crazy magical ride versus when we got something here. And as for Baltimore, there's way too Lamar dependent, but I'm okay with it because Wink Martindale's coming next week. He's coached against Lamar Jackson for the last few years. We know Greg Roman's not one to adjust from his system. So I hope Baltimore comes in a little wounded. Star of the game is Justin Tucker because he is automatic from any and everywhere. and he won this game single-handedly, beating out Mr. What's the kicker for the Bengals called? What's his name?
McPherson.
Beating out McPherson for best kicker in NFC North. Probably the greatest kicker of all time. Future Hall of Famer Justin Tucker wins game for Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, it's crazy how when you have the greatest kicker in NFL history, how it just changes how you can play later in the game. Like they're like, okay, let's just get it to the 45, and we're there. We're money, which is not what any other team can say in the league. So hats off to him. And I was going to say this too, Isaiah. I think the Ravens offense is way, way, way too Lamar Jackson dependent. They didn't have Rashad Bateman, right? They didn't have him. So that was a weapon loss, but way too much of needing him to make a play. And as for the Bengals, the rushing attack, I forget where I saw it, but you can tell from Joe Mixon whether it's a run or a pass. If he is bent over, it is a pass. If he stands up, it is a run. It's just like
it's been that way for a while.
So it's just like how Dan Orlovsky kind of broke Matt Rule's offense, going, oh, if Christian McCaffrey is a yard behind the quarterback, it's a run. If he's right next to the quarterback, it's a pass. I don't know how they don't pick these things up as coaches, going like, oh, yeah, I think they can watch film and figure this out. But let's move on. Monday Night Football in Arrowhead. The Raiders coming to town. No victory lap around Arrowhead this time. The Chiefs beat the Raiders 30-29, and Patrick Mahomes is here.
I appreciate the Raiders getting up early because it made sure that Patrick Mahomes had to play football in this one. That's really all that matters here. This is a game of two blowouts. The Vegas Raiders had to jump on them, made a couple of big plays. Kansas City's offense was scuffling early. They gave up the 4th-and-1 bomb to Davante Adams. Can't happen. Just a couple of minor mistakes early, and it allowed the Raiders to get the jump into the game. And then when Kansas City decided to turn it on, they turned it on big time. Patrick Mahomes continues to be the best player in the NFL, the best quarterback in the NFL. He can do things that whenever he feels like it, he can turn it on in a way that nobody has been able to unlock that decides wins and losses as much as Patrick Mahomes does. And now that they've been able to get the running backs involved, they have all the receivers involved, and it opens the field up. And then as the Raiders have never been able to do, which is guard Travis Kelce, they allow Travis Kelce to rack up 4 touchdowns in this one single-handedly because they refuse to get any linebackers or safeties that can defend this guy. And they just bludgeon him with it over and over and over again. Obviously, Kansas City has a super creative offense, and Kansas City just made more plays. They overcame the disastrous roughing the passer turnover that Chris Jones forced, the trifecta, the sack, the strip, and the recovery, took it away from them, and it still didn't even matter. I think both sides tried to beat themselves at the end. Andy Reid trying to go for 2 when they were up 7 instead of forcing the Raiders to go get 8, and then the Raiders deciding to give back the points by going for 2 instead of taking the tie that they shouldn't have been handed to them anyway, and then Kansas City goes and puts them away in the end. Just for Vegas, 1-4. Davante Adams probably about to get suspended. They're teetering. They're teetering on the ends of absolute flame out. And for Kansas City, just another close win under the belt. These are going to happen during the NFL season, but they keep their division lead, they keep their AFC lead, and they still look like the favorites.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City has a history of dominating the Raiders. We've seen it. This is the trend. KC beats LV. I thought Derek Carr played his best game of the season from what I could see. He made some bad mistakes, but I mean, he finally got him and Davante Adams look like they're getting the connection going. Darren Waller's been nicked up. The fall off of Hunter Renfrow. I think the biggest problem with getting Davante Adams, who's an intermediate possession receiver for the most part, is that kind of takes away the need for that in the slot with Hunter Renfrow. So now they might have too many weapons on their offense, which is what's leading them to have too little help on their defense. So, I mean, I'm going to say it. I think the Raiders come out of the bye and they save their season and go on a little 5-6 game winning streak. If you look at their schedule, they got Seattle, the Broncos, Indianapolis, Houston, Jacksonville. So I'm gonna pitch my wagon and say the Raiders save their season, and probably give a big thanks to the Russell Wilson injury that sets back the Broncos. But I like what I've seen from them. I think they're heading in the right direction. But the biggest thing that we got here is that Casey is heading in to the biggest game of the year next year versus Buffalo. We'll find out who is going to be the MVP probably of the season in a game versus Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Wow. And it sucks because I had Travis Kelce in 2 leagues. Wish he got some yards to go with those touchdowns because I needed them to get some miracles. So it's very rarely that you get 4 touchdowns when you need a Monday Night Miracle and you still lose. I wish Moody's game wasn't ahead of us.
I know. I see his reaction every time.
But yeah, Eric, what you got for this game?
Yeah, so I'm just taking, obviously, I don't appreciate Clyde Edwards-Helaire only making me barely edge out Isaiah in fantasy this week. It should have been a blowout, should have been smoke, but we had to edge him out by less than a point.
I have Saquon Barkley and Justin Jefferson. I'm never going to get blown out.
Yeah, I had Jamar Chase have a not so good weekend. But I agree. I mean, I think it's crazy how they purposely, once Travis Kelce got to 2 touchdowns, Patrick Mahomes was like, okay, I'm getting as many touchdowns as possible for Travis Kelce. Yeah, just impressive. Juju Smith-Schuster has not been not a replacement for Tyreek Hill, but just hasn't filled any void from him at all.
All their receivers are just guys. They're all just guys. The number 1 is Travis Kelce. The number 2 is Patrick Mahomes doing whatever he wants. The number 2 receiver is Patrick Mahomes because he does whatever.
They got just guys, but all of those guys are better than the guys that are currently playing in Green Bay, and they're better than the guys currently playing in New York. So they got just guys, but they're actually above average guys. They got enough above average guys. Still waiting for McCole Hardman and MVS to make some damn explosive touchdowns. And like you said, it's Juju. It's Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. It used to be a trio. Now it's just a duo. Luckily, they got Andy Reid drawing it up for them.
And Andy Reid's your third guy.
Yeah, and if you're Devontae Adams and you're a top 2 wide receiver, you need to have a complete catch on that one on their last drive. If you're getting paid the way he is getting paid, you need to get control of that. Oh, my God, Anthony Rizzo.
Goodbye.
Let's go,
Goodbye.
baby. Let's go. I appreciate you cutting off the camera. Let's go. But that's all I got in the game.
All right, that's a wrap for week 5, man. It's already week 5. We're going to get to the bye weeks.
MVP rankings. I'm going to go first. Clearly, we're going to put Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen at that 1 and 2 spot to be determined. We're going to put next to that. It will come out from that, and we'll figure it out.
Saquon Barkley.
Pushing out Lamar Jackson. I'm pushing in Mr. Saquon Barkley, who, along with Daniel Jones and Graham Gano, are the trio that puts points on the board for the New York Giants. If we lose any of those 3 guys, we are back to being a bottom 5 team in the league.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we're gonna do fan bias here, I'm gonna give my man some respect. Let's get Michael Parsons in the MVP conversation here for the way he has transformed the Cowboys defense from an absolute disaster 2 years ago to arguably the best in the NFL today. It's mostly because of him. He's leading the league in sacks, QB hits, pressures, win rate, whatever you want to call it. He can guard Terry McLaurin in the slot when he feels like it as well. He's just all world. So I'll rank him 3rd behind Mahomes and Josh Allen, and with Lamar Jackson being the first runner-up.
Well, I guess we're leaving all the NFC East teams in here. I'm going to go with the quarterback of the last undefeated team. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts in that 3rd spot.
Okay. So, yeah, and then for coaching hot seat, RIP to Matt Rule. He no longer gets to be on this list because he no longer has a job.
He no longer has a seat.
This is tough because
it burned up.
Ron Rivera's throwing players under the bus, so he skyrockets up to 1. For 2, I'll go with Nathaniel Hackett because do we even know if he's good at whatever he's doing? He hired a coach to coach him. If your coach is hiring a coach to coach him, he don't know what he's doing. At 3, I'm going to go with Zach Taylor. because I don't know what he's doing. He's an offensive coach that has the most basic offense. We don't know what he's drawing. Oh, fuck it. Actually, Zach Taylor, you get to escape. Brandon Staley, hurry up and get Sean Payne in LA.
Yeah, obviously Ron Rivera's the easy one, and I'll go to the opposite of Zach Taylor and Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona as being a guy in the hot seat here. They have not made the proper adjustments without DeAndre Hopkins, and it shows. The offense is still just air raid. Kyler Murray make a play. He's not Lamar. He's not Josh Allen. He's not the guy who can do that at that level, and he doesn't even have the talent around him that those guys have. Cliff Kingsbury has to do a better job playing complementary football. His defense is terrible. You need to get to the run game. You need to get Kyler Murray involved in the run game. He's just not doing a good enough job elevating the talent that team has.
Yeah, the first two of Isaiah's list are the same two on mine, and I'm going to go with my Super Bowl champion, Frank Wright, as the number 3.
He won. He won.
Did he? Did he win? Like,
Yes.
Did something win that football game?
This
For
quarterback
sure.
threw the ball away to the other team less times than the other team than Nathaniel Hackett's quarterback. But yeah, remember to like, comment, subscribe, interact, share. We're trying to blow up 5 tools. We'll catch y'all next time. Pray for us that the Yankees get through this game.
Go Padres.
I think we're good.